Fire it up, feel the signal pulse. The screen lights up, you're in full control. From copper wires to fiber lines, we break it down in real time. Binary beats and network flow. I show you things that pros should know. Learning fast, no looking back. The stream's the code behind the stack. Cables run like veins through steel. Every frame, every ping, every byte you feel. From servers humming in the rack to scripts that bring your data back. We're live, yeah, we're wired. This is tech with a spark, fully inspired. No scripts, just skill, no fluff, just facts. Blackburn and tech, we've got your back. Digging deep, don't miss a sec. This ain't just talk.
All right, welcome everybody to the live stream. We're just getting stuff set up here, making sure everything's going all right, and we'll be starting promptly at 10 o'clock.
Logs roll, the updates fly, commands fly fast, but I tell you why. Ping that box, trace that route, we solve the mess, no shadow of doubt. Lab to field, from home to cloud, I keep it clear, I say it loud. You're not alone, you're in the crew, learning tech like the pros do. LEDs flash green and blue, there's power in knowing what systems do. So sit back, gear up, hit that light, we go full send when the stream goes live. We're live, yeah, we're wired. This is tech with the spark, fully inspired. No scripts, just skill, no fluff, just facts. Blackburn and tech, we've got your back. Digging deep, don't miss a sec. This ain't just talk, it's Blackburn and tech. Zeros and ones, flip the bit. Truth in the logs, no counterfeit. Configure, deploy, learn, repeat. This is tech you can feel in the beat. We're live, yeah, we're wired. This is tech with the spark, fully inspired. Blackburn in tech, we've got your back. Oh, Blackburn in tech, streams on track. Fire it up, feel the signal pulse. The screen lights up, you're in full control. From copper wires to fiber lines, we break it down in real time. Binary beats and network flow. I show you things that pros should know. Learning fast, no looking back. The stream's the code behind the stack. Cables run like veins through steel. Every frame, every ping, every byte you feel. From servers humming in the rack to scripts that bring your data back. We're live, yeah, we're wired. This is tech with a spark, fully inspired. No scripts, just skill, no fluff, just facts. Blackburn and tech, we've got your back. Digging deep, don't miss a sec. This ain't just talk, it's Blackburn and tech. Boot logs roll, the updates fly, commands fly fast, but I tell you why. Ping that box, trace that route, we solve the mess, no shadow of doubt. Lab to field, from home to cloud, I keep it clear, I say it loud. You're not alone, you're in the crew, learning tech like the pros do. LEDs flash green and blue, there's power in knowing what systems do. So sit back, gear up, hit that light, we go full send when the stream goes live. We're live, yeah, we're wired. This is tech with the spark, fully inspired. No scripts, just skill, no fluff, just facts. Blackburn and tech, we've got your back. Digging deep, don't miss a sec. This ain't just talk, it's Blackburn and tech. Zeros and ones, flip the bit. Truth in the logs, no counterfeit. Configure, deploy, learn, repeat. This is tech you can feel in the beat.
Let me go ahead
We're
and
live,
hit buttons. That's
yeah,
what I'm
we're
doing. I'm hitting
wired.
buttons.
This is
All right.
tech.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Blackburn and Tech. My name is Brian with Blackburn and Tech. If you're not new, God, words are difficult, especially on a Saturday morning. So hopefully you're here to learn about how osTicket works. And we're going to cover Linux and then installing this from a Hyper-V server and a VM, setting up the network stack. So if you're not familiar with Linux, is what I was trying to say, then we're going to go from ground zero to build it out. Now, if you're already familiar with Linux, that's cool. And maybe you're just wanting to see the osTicket deployment or different parts of this. If you're not able to attend this live stream, or say if you want to just watch those particulars, I'm going to go through and do like a shortened down video of this, so that way, if just in case you're wanting to watch a particular area, might as well do that. So if you're thinking this is fun, grab yourself a Red Bull. As you can see, I've already done that, and or a cup of coffee or whatever works for you, and we can go ahead and get this started. If my audio is off or anything, please let me know. If you're in the chat, that would be fantastic. Actually, I don't even know where to view the chat. There's the chat. As you can tell, I don't do live streams that often. So I want to make sure... okay, I want to make sure I wasn't clicking the wrong button again. I accidentally disconnected the live stream. That'd be terrible. But that's how it works in tech, that we all, even if you are really confident in what you're doing, chances are you could still do something that might mess you up. It's just kind of how it goes. All right, so let me share my screen. That's not it. That's not it. There it is. Like I said, one of these days I'm going to learn how to hit the right buttons, but I don't think that will be today. Okay, so right now we're on the server, and let me flip back. Full cam. So the server that's right back here, this is what I do most of my videos on, and this is just a nonsense server, but it works for that and looks great for holding different little items. So let's just jump back over here and we'll go ahead and start building out the VM. All right. Go ahead and open up Hyper-V Manager. As you can see, I currently have some stuff already here, but we're doing something new today. So we'll come over here to new virtual machine. And let me put that other thing up on this screen, so just in case. All right, and if you've never built out a virtual machine, it's pretty simple. Essentially, what you're doing is you're taking some of your resources from this server and using it somewhere else for like this virtual machine. So it's its own instance. So we're going to call this one just osTicket. And this one's currently going to be run as Gen 1, but you can run as Gen 2 if you need the additional security features. If you're on a newer version of Hyper-V, in case you guys are wondering, on server 2025, it defaults to that. How much RAM do we want? Technically, it only needs like 2 gigs, but I'm just going to do 4 gigs. And you can set it up for dynamic, so it'll automatically scale up and down if you need to worry about that. This virtual machine has, I think, this server has 128 gigs of RAM in it, so I'm not worried about 4 gigs of RAM. The network, we're going to put it on my core network. Next, hard drive size. And this is one of those areas that when you're setting something up like this, you definitely want to be careful on. Well, actually, let me share my screen because I want to make sure you guys see how important this is. Here I am. So when you're looking at the hard drive size, this is really important, especially for like osTicket or something, because it runs a database, and the database is what stores all your information. That being said, you want it to scale, but yet you don't want it to be a bottleneck. So you don't want to say, yeah, let me give you 10 terabytes, for example, if it's not going to require that. Now, you can always make it grow and shrink depending on your environment. Since this one, I'm not going that far into it since it's just for the video, but typically you'll see where a lot of places will set it as what is known as thick provisioning. So that's saying, yes, this is, you got, say, a terabyte of space for that virtual machine. So the way the database can have that resources automatically there, it doesn't have to check with the virtual machine. This is a common approach for that. And if I'm talking too fast, it's probably because I'm drinking Red Bull, but I'll try and slow it down a little bit. So 128 gigs, like I said, this one, the server, I can support up to 64 maximum, terabytes maximum. I'm not worried about that. I know that I'm definitely meeting the minimum requirements. And for those of us that are kind of quirky about it, they recommend 20 gigs is what their official is. So I'd rather have more space than not enough space, and I don't want to worry about it later. So I'd hit next. And then here's where we select the installer, images and ISOs. I already have a bunch of ISOs for what I do. So let's go ahead and do Ubuntu. And they have the desktop version or the server version. I just do the server version because it's a headless server, so I don't really need to have it. Next. And then finish. And so for me, I have VLANs set up here at my house because I'm a nerd. I enjoy stuff like this. And so like my lab network, it's on its own dedicated. I have stuff for like the gaming and for the wireless and all of this. So if you have VLANs, this part's going to show you where you can set that up because a lot of people don't understand it, but in Hyper-V, you can do VLANs to your virtual infrastructure. Left PC screen. All right, so here's my osTicket. Let me go ahead and click on settings. And I will be using the zoom tool because that helps me, and hopefully it helps you and it doesn't make you motion sick. So I want to give this a couple more CPU processes. All right, and so for me, down here under core network, this is the virtual switch that it uses, but I run VLANs in my environment, so I'm gonna turn this on. And I know it's associated with VLAN 40 because I'm the one who built my network. If you are working with someone that's already built your network and you need to know what VLAN, good idea. And then you can also do some bandwidth management. So if you want to restrict it, I don't really care about that right now. So I'll click apply. Okay. And double click on osTicket. And if you're not familiar with Hyper-V, essentially this is just the way to run the virtual machine and view it as if you was looking at the actual screen. And like I said, if you're new to Linux, I'll walk you through. All this is the typical boot up process when it's first doing its thing. A lot of people do get intimidated by that at first, especially if you're used to Windows that normally hides that from you. That puts the typical logo over it. Ubuntu, like I think it's a Ubuntu 24. You know, all of them actually do it, where they have the option where you can hide it, so it's known as like a splash screen or something like that. To me, I actually think it looks cool to have all that going across the screen, even if I don't understand what everything means at that exact moment. But it is kind of nice to look at and go, okay, well, there's an error. But for what we're doing, we didn't get any errors, so that's good. All right, so language, we're going to do English because that's the one that I know. And it's saying that my installer's a little outdated. So we could, here, let me show you. So we could continue without updating, or we can go ahead and update it. Since this is online, I can just do this and let it go ahead and update the installer. Typically, it's best to go ahead and do that unless you have a use case where it's not necessary. But for our environment where it does have internet access, it makes it easy just to go ahead and let it do it. Okay. And I wasn't paying attention. Imagine that. All right. So English. And what do we want to install? Ubuntu server comes with most of the stuff you already need. Now, what a lot of people, I've actually had a couple of people actually ask me this. Why do they have this Ubuntu server minimized? So that's just the bare minimum it needs to install it. So like if you're doing like an Internet of Things or something like that, that's what it would be. Third-party drivers. So if you're on just some weird hardware that might require it, you can. Typically, I don't do that. The only time I've ever seen that actually comes in handy is like with a weird graphics cards or something that it doesn't have it has proprietary drivers, because by default Ubuntu won't do that. Networking, and this is where we're going to set this up. So I want to give this one a static IP address. And you see how it just changed away and how it says DHCP. So I have DHCP on this network. So currently it would get that address, but I want to set it statically. So we'll go ahead and click on it. Come down here to IPv4, manual, and subnet. This is where a lot of people get a little confused on this. So where mine's was known as a /24 network, so I would do literally put in the network /24, and then the IP address I want to assign it. 40 dot. We'll do 4. Actually, I don't know. Let's do 10. That sounds better. And then the gateway. So where is the road to get off of my road, essentially? Name servers. Since I'm not integrating this with Active Directory or anything, I'm just going to put a public ones in. And then you let it sit there for a second, and you'll see it's verifying that that was a valid. I do like that. Next. Proxying. So it's going to ask if I have a web proxy for it. No. And the mirrors is so it can get the resources it needs for downloading additional parts of it and updates while it's going through the installer. And then you can get customizable on the disk. So like where we could put the disk on something else. This one right here where it says to encrypt LVM, if you was to want this encrypted for whatever reason for your environment, maybe you have compliance or something, would be the best time to do this. Going back in after you have it built it can be done, but it's definitely not fun. So I'm not going to worry about doing a custom. I'm just going to say, yeah, just go ahead and use the entire thing. And then this will tell you how it has it built. So /boot has its, then everything else goes in that other directory. And it's going to tell me you're getting ready to blow stuff up on your disk. Well, good thing it's a virtual disk, and I'm okay with that. So here's where we can go ahead and start setting our server. I'm going to set something generic, but here's where you would actually set what you would actually want. osTicket. And then my server name. I just realized I did that backwards. And I do this all the time. Every time I build out a virtual machine, I start typing stuff. So we'll just put in mine. Ryan for me. Name of the server will be osTicket. And then we'll do BRYON. Then I'll type my super secure password. Remember, if you're new to Linux, everything's case sensitive. So where I have that lowercase, I have to remember that's lowercase. All right. And I'm not part of Ubuntu Pro. I don't want to register it with that at the moment. So next. Do I want SSH? Typically, you do want SSH. You just hit spacebar. That'll turn that on. If you have your own SSH keys, you can do that. For me, I'm not worried about it for this one. And then these are the additional stuff that it asks you that most people might want to have installed. I don't install them here because I like to go and install stuff after the fact. And just hit done. And the hardest part now is sitting here waiting. So installing Ubuntu on a virtual machine is very simple. So what we just went through was a simple walkthrough of, cool, we spun it, told the virtual machine what characteristics we wanted. We pointed to the ISO image. And this would also apply if you're going to, this second part where we did this configuration part. If you're on a virtual machine, you're on a physical device, this is exactly the same process. So this is the setting up of the virtual machine infrastructure and getting the server online. So once this gets done, we'll reboot it, we'll SSH into the server, and then we can actually start on building out the configurations and the stuff for osTicket. And the fun part is, typically this is when I would pause and you guys don't see me, and then we'll just resume. But with it being a live stream, it's kind of hard to do. So I'm just going to go back over to the server screen so I can drink Red Bull without you guys watching me drink. I guess I should have some music or something playing right, but when it's doing the slow part, but oh well. Things you think about after the fact, especially when you don't do that many live streams. I was sitting there thinking about it. The last time I did a live stream was when I was doing the radio programming videos. No, I think I did one on like PF Sense, but it's been back when I pretty much started the channel. All right, and like I said, this is probably the most boring part is waiting for this installer to get done, and then once you actually start getting everything going through the configuration, it's pretty easy. Just hardest part's being patient for everything to update and install and do the initial system deployment. Okay, so this is what we're waiting to see is right down here where it says where we can view the fall log or reboot now. So everything's already set up. Hit enter. If we wanted to view the log, we could, but I'm not that concerned about it. All right, and the server is rebooting as we can speak. As we can speak. Yeah, tells you on how much Red Bull I've already had. I think I've had almost two 16-ounce Red Bulls today, so part of the Saturday fun day. Or say Sunday fun day. And I could log in here and do this, but I like being on SSH to do it, so I'm going to SSH into the server. What did I say, 10? When you get this, since it doesn't know the key and the fingerprint, but we do, so and then that's not good. I can't remember which password I just created. There we go. Disadvantage by having multiple passwords. You can never remember. All right. So let me clear this. All right, that looks pretty good on the stream, so you guys can see it. So one of the first things we always do whenever you're on a Linux computer, like I said, we just SSH'd into it. And before we deploy anything, we want to go ahead and do an update. Even though it said that it did everything, it's always a good idea to go ahead and just do it. And I'm going to copy and paste commands so you guys don't have to watch my fantastic typing skills. But this right here, sudo apt, apt is the package manager, and we're updating. And then after that's done, because it's updating the list, and then here we're telling it go ahead and upgrade. So everything that it was available for upgrade in the list, we're going to go ahead and do it. And the -y says don't bother me and just do it. And that's going to ask me for my secure password that I can barely remember myself. And then just let it roll. So it did find some stuff, it looks like, and it just goes through and does this. What's funny is if you ever watch like some of the hacking movies, if you ever look at it, sometimes that's all they're doing is just it looks really hackery until you look at it and go, huh, this is just doing a package updates. How are you hacking doing package updates? But I digress. Like I said, this is typically would be the time that I would pause this so you guys kind of don't have to sit here and wait and see all of this. All right, and so then now that the update is done, we can go ahead and start doing what we need to do and get other stuff installed and get this ball rolling. So we need some tools to help us get this entire approach. Now I'm gonna hit clear, type clear, so we can put it back at the top. And so the tools we're going to install are net tools and curl and make sure that's there and unzip. Chances are some of it's there, but it doesn't hurt to just go, hey, I want this. Okay. And it'll just tell you that it's already installed. But go ahead and do that. And we can see that there was some stuff it needed. Okay. And once again, I'm going to do the clear because I like keeping this at the top of the screen for you guys to see easier. And now we have to install the services that make up osTicket work. If you're not familiar with it, it requires Apache, which is the web server, MySQL, which is the database, and PHP in LAMP stack services. So installing that is going to be very easy. Same concept. And I will also make sure that this is in the full video description. But just hit enter and let it roll. If you're going to post this publicly, like how I've done it for some people, is I also use like an Nginx reverse proxy. So that way I could post it and just, you have Apache running, that's fine. But I like having stuff behind Nginx. This is just one way of doing it, but all depends on what level you need of what where, essentially. All right. Updating, extracting. The nice part is once you get this part done, you rarely have to go back into the CLI. So if you are not a CLI person for Linux, chances are once you do this and get all of this up and operational, mostly everything that you need to do in osTicket is in the GUI. Now, when it comes to installing additional modules and stuff, sometimes, yeah, you have to go back in. So if you want Active Directory integration, SAML authentication, or whatever other module that they have available. Okay. So all of that was installed. Now, chances are it already did start the service, so it already enabled the service, so the way it'll start next time. I am still the guy that goes through and makes sure. So like what I'm doing is saying sudo, so I want root to do this, and I want a system control, and I want to enable Apache every time that it starts. Oh, I meant Apache too. And then I want to start Apache 2. And then the same thing I would apply for the database, because I want the database to start. So if my server ever shuts off, I want to make sure that it's back online. And now that I have that back online, I could also restart Apache 2. It's not going to hurt it since I don't have anything on it, but this is the command you would do for that. So now we have to do some SQL configurations, and I'm going to point out I am not the biggest database guy. So I'm using this from the guide and the walkthrough that I've had and know how I've deployed it. So this will take you in to manage your SQL, and then as you can see, this different form that we're in. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to paste the whole thing in that I have, and then I will explain it. So I'm using just a generic aspect of this, and I'm keeping my identifier generic, so another strong password. So if I wanted to create more of a secure password, I could. So, but for my database user for osTicket, I want my osTicket user to have just that generic password. I could change it to what I need to and just change it in the settings, but I'm not actually that concerned about it for this. If you did need to, that's fine, but this is where you would do that. And so now we need to go out and go get the osTicket environment. So first we're going to go into the www directory. We're going to remove that generic index. And the reason why we need curl earlier is because we need to go out and download from them what the newest version is. So we'll go ahead and click that. So that basically went out on the web, grabbed it, and brought it back to us. And now we'll unzip that. And like I said, don't get intimidated when seeing that scroll of text. All right. And if we want to, we can see LS. We can see that those are here. And what we're going to do is we're going to copy and do this. And then they have an example config file. And this is where you would go in, like if you changed that password or something, and you would just set that. I'm using just the generic password because I'm not worried about people accessing that database. The only people that would have access to this server would be just that. So I'm not as secure about that. And now we have to set the permissions to allow it. So this is changing owner permissions for all of this. That's fine. And this is changing permissions for the PHP script. And now we have to enable a module for Apache. And we'll need to restart Apache. And then there is 2 commands that we have that's available after we get the installer done. And then that's how we would get to that. So right now we should have this osTicket up and running. And so let me see if I can fire up in a web browser. Let's say 40.10. And so here's where we have this. This is what you should see when you get to the, once we got to this point. You can see it already was doing our checks to make sure we have PHP, everything installed. And so we'll click continue. And so Helpdesk name, just going to say tech default email. Let me go ahead and do and as you guys can see, go in and fill this out. I'm going to just put in some generic stuff just for sake, and we'll do lab at and I'm going to do lab. I'm going to set lab as the password. Lab as the password. Obviously, you would make sure this appropriately matches. Here is the part that confuses quite a few people, and you see all this database stuff, especially if you're not a database person. This is what kind of got me when I first started building this one out. On the commands that we used, it had what database and what password. So under create database was osTicket. So if I come over here and look at this local host name, since the database is installed on this server, it's local. So osTicket. And then the ticket the user we created was this name. And since I didn't change its password, typically you'd want to set something a little more secure. But like I said, this one's my lab setup, so I'm not as concerned. And then just paste it in to whatever you change that password to. And click install now. Oh, error installing. Check for connections. Try again. Oh, password must be okay. Well, you know what we'll do? We'll change this one to we'll make it match the back end of the server just so we're sure. There we go. So now it'll just match what the back end of the server is. And I do love that message, just doing stuff. Fantastic. I don't know what stuff it's doing, but it's doing something. And we're 3/4 the way of having this up and operational. So where everyone goes, well, I'd really like to have a ticketing system, but it takes forever to make it work. Not really. So what I would recommend you to do is copy this over to a notepad. So you know where your links are. So like the ticket forms, for example, and your staff one, and your documentations. Now you can have it however you want it, but the ones I would recommend is your ticket URL and your staff portal. So like I'm going to open this in a new tab, and I'm going to open this one in a new tab. So here's the normal one, but here's the back end side for like your technicians, your engineers, your everybody. So let's go ahead and log in, and I will just do Brian and enter my super secure password if I can remember what I typed. All right, so this, not now. So this is the side of the back end of it. So you can have your ticketing here, your admin portal. So all your settings you need. So if you need to manage users, email groups, however you want to design it. As you can see, please delete the setup directory for security reasons, because right now anybody can go in here and just blow up your ticket system. So before we do anything else, let me minimize that. And then we're still sitting here on the command line. So what we need to do is we need to remove our setup directory. And this right here, and that's just a comment that I put just so you guys know what I'm doing. Or so way of editing me knows what I'm doing. So by doing this, we removed all the files from the setup directory. And we're changing our permissions to match appropriately. So now that setup directory is gone. So where did I put? There it is. So dashboard. Now that I did this, I'm not actually concerned about it. Let me refresh. So now we don't have that warning. Even when I come in here to... Yeah, I'm still in the admin section of this. All right. So since I'm in the admin, let me go back over to agents, see on how I can go back and forth and it's not throwing that error. One area that I do want you to recommend is if you're going to put this in a production, put it behind a web application firewall or something. This right now is running on HTTP. You can run it on HTTPS, just in a little bit additional steps, but realistically, it's not that difficult. All right. And just like that, like I said, right here, we already have this one done. So if I wanted to come in here and try to get to this installer page again, because I know you're running osTicket, now they can't get in and mess with the back end of that. So it's literally just that easy to spin up osTicket in a lab, or even if you're wanting to run this for a production. It doesn't cost you anything. It's maybe a little bit of time. If you already have some server resources, yeah, a little bit of server resources. But say you're a small business or a nonprofit that wants to have a ticketing system or wants to have some documentation flow about what's going on. Or maybe you're a managed service provider and you need to have that. This is definitely a viable solution. There's things you can do to enhance it. Like I said, right now, this is just the base install. So if I wanted to have email communications, if I want to have Active Directory integration, if I want to integrate it with SAML, like the sky's the limit. So if you want just a basic install with local users, fantastic. You want to have an enterprise grade stack, you can do that too. And it doesn't cost you money. Now, if you want additional support from them and the open source community, That's typically where open source normally makes money. But realistically, it's not, as you guys seen, it's not that difficult to actually set up. And I think that this is a good stop to go ahead. It's a good stop. I swear I've had too much Red Bull today. But I think this is a good spot to go ahead and start wrapping this one up. And I don't see anybody dropping anything in the chat. So, like I said initially, it was to show you how we get this all set up. And a little bit of the fumbling behind the scenes from me. So it's kind of a good sneak peek that, oh yeah, well, IT YouTubers are professional and they never make a mistake. That's not true. Sometimes I forget to turn on the server. So I can't say that. But setting this up, as you've seen, was pretty simple walkthrough. And the thing that the biggest part I wanted on this was the takeaway that it's not that difficult, and just having some patience, read some documentation, especially where you spun it up in a virtual machine. If you have time, why not try and do something like this? This right here increases your knowledge, your portfolio, and can even help your business. A lot of companies that want to have a full ticketing system doesn't really want to do this. I spun this up on my local network, but maybe if I wanted to run it through like Linode or one of the cloud providers, and then I could have this accessible to all my clients. Just many ways to do the same thing, and that's one of the best parts about Linux. So I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and like I said, we're going to go back in and we'll kind of chop up this video and make it a little more shortened so you don't have to watch all of me fumbling around and all this. But this is how we do it. This is real IT. Until next time, thanks for watching.